racing. You wanted the best, you got him four abreast. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws.
Fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got rid of the outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to him.
Oh my God. Big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, here we go.
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
It's time for a little bit of Tuesday fun. Just send it time here on the SimSpeed Esports Network. We have some huge names for you racing this afternoon, and they include Josh Rogers, Rugia, Campbell, Murray. How about Steve Owen? Those are your spicy names of talent that will be slicing and dicing, bumping and rubbing, racing hard like there's no tomorrow, as we welcome you to the United States of America and the virtual Road Atlanta, located just an hour's drive from Atlanta, Georgia, a city that hosted the 1996 Olympic Games and today hosts Week 7 action of Just Send It on the SimSpeed Esports Network. Our field today will drive that Ferrari 488 GTE, and there are the race details on screen. The track details for you first up. It's a 4-kilometer circuit. That's 2.5 miles, depending on your units of choice. It's a clockwise layout that is Road Atlanta with 32 meters of elevation change, 12 of those corners around this undulating roller coaster of a circuit that will challenge the drivers for 40 minutes of racing action coming up tonight, this Tuesday evening in Australia. Now we're using that full course layout. It includes one mandatory pit stop. That's today's event. And where will that competition caution affect our race results? With overcast skies, of course, meaning grippy conditions, 36 degrees Celsius track temperature, and a rubbered-in track, as you can see in the background, with an abundance of Ferraris lapping around here with just a few minutes time to the grid. From myself, Jonathan Simon, good evening this Tuesday on SimSpeed TV. I'm joined, as usual, by Lachlan Mansell alongside me, Jay Kennedy in production and commentary as well. And Lachlan, we head to a circuit that is ever so fun, ever so thrilling, ever so narrow.
And a circuit that's really going to suit these Ferrari 488 GTE cars as well, because it's got such a wide variety of different types of corners. You've got the S's through turns 2, 3, 4 and 5, but then you've also got some slower 90-degree corners at turns 6 and 7. They'll produce some good overtaking opportunities, as well as turns 10A and B. So I can't wait to see the Ferraris racing around this circuit this evening. And if there's been one theme for the Just Send It series so far, Jonathan, it's been unpredictability. We've had 6 different winners from the 6 races that we've had so far, and that competition caution and those pit stop strategies have really mixed up the field in every race that we've seen.
Yeah, certainly have, and we're going to see it this afternoon as well, with over 40 drivers racing out there in the field. Now, Jay Kennedy, we have an abundance of sponsors to include as well as drivers, and one of those sponsors has a competition for us.
Yeah, definitely. So big thank you to all the sponsors behind the scenes, and thank you for the introduction. Hello to both you and Lachlan. But thanks again to the Hype Project, Wolfchester, Simworks, Vantage Freight, GB Galvanizing, and of course Jack Technologies. And if you do need a new PC and want to get involved in Just Send It, make sure you shoot Jack Technologies a message. Tell them we sent you from Just Send It, and they will guarantee to look after you. Make sure that you get yourself set up and are out there in Just Send It as soon as possible.
Yes, for sure. Now, we have a few overtaking spots at this circuit, Lachlan. The best one, though, is at the end of the long back straight heading into turn 10, but it is also a corner that we see Matt Campbell just approaching right now. It's a corner that does encourage a lot of dive bombing due to the downhill nature in the braking zone.
Dive bombing and sending, I think, are probably the two words that you think about to describe turn 10A and 10B. So I think if we're going to see some big sends, that might be the spot to see it. But no surprise at all to see Josh Rogers, the sim racing legend himself, starting on pole position.
Yep, Josh Rogers, who just won $50,000 on the weekend for the Porsche Esports Super Cup, and what a thrilling final round it was. A lot of Aussies staying up into the early hours of Sunday morning to support the young man from Bowral, New South Wales. There we cycle through to the second row of the grid. You can see Benefield and Emerson rounding out the second row. How about Justin Rugia down there starting in your 16th position? Cooper Murray lines up alongside Gary Hamilton. How about Glenn Postlethwaite? Not the best qualifying performance from Glenn Postlethwaite. He starts behind Steve Owen. And here we are ready today for our... I'm just trying to see what's happening on screen at the moment. And we're getting ready to do our standing start. The lights are about to illuminate. Here we are now for Week 7 action from Just Send It. We go green from Road Atlanta. And a brilliant getaway already from Josh Rogers, but Craig Edwards will have to form up behind in second. Bit of argy-bargy behind with Dominic Ferraris and the liking. Now, Ferraris is a specialty in the Ferrari, isn't he? That's one driver heading off into the grass. That looked like, was it Craig Edwards, I think? Yes, it was.
Good start from Matt Campbell as well. So he's already moved his way up into second position. Opportunistically, as we've had a spinner, that's Glenn Postlethwaite, who's rotated the lime green Ferrari in the background, and he's going to drop right to the back of the pack. But Matt Campbell had that preferred inside line for turn number 1, was able to squeeze up the inside and grab P2 on this opening lap.
So everybody will begin to form up here through the middle sector. This is the first time the drivers head through the exit of turn 7. We ride on board from one of the Ferraris there through the exit. Here's a look behind Matt Campbell in P3. Campbell started in that 3rd position. And he's up into 2nd for the moment. So I believe that timing screen hasn't updated, Lockie, but Campbell's actually promoted himself after Craig Edwards had that blunder through turn 1 as Collins slices behind.
Andrew Collins has been one of the most consistent performers in Just Send It so far. In fact, he's finished in the top 8 for the last 5 weeks in a row, and he's been on the podium twice. So we don't keep an official championship tally for Just Send It, but if we did, Andrew Collins would be right towards the top. Thomas Hinds, our race winner from the TCR cars at Bathurst last week, fighting for a spot in the top 10. He is side by side with Justin Ruggier.
Justin Ruggier, ever so quick. Ever so talent is Justin, of course. Here they head through the ever so tight first sector of Road Atlanta. Look at the amount of Ferraris we have right now. It's unbelievable to see. It reminds me of Petit Le Mans.
Oh, and we've had another spin. This time it's for Jack Hotter in the number 33 car. He'll manage to rejoin and hopefully stay out of everybody's way and not get collected. Good to say that we seem to have managed to get through this first lap, Jonathan, without any major incidents or pile-ups, because that's been a bit of the theme for Just Send It over the last few weeks.
Yep, driving standards, top-notch already this evening. Here we ride on board with Cody Bircher.
Don't forget, too, that we've got some awards to hand out at the end of the evening as well. We've got the award for the best send, an award for the biggest failed send for an overtaking manoeuvre that doesn't quite come off. There's also the award for the best postman for the driver who makes up the most positions from where they started.
Yep, and not the best posse, which I thought was the award name, Jay Kennedy, which many weeks ago sort of embarrassed me, I guess.
I'll take that one. That's on me.
Oh,
that's all right. Side by side back in the field is that Craig Edwards is really struggling. His qualifying was good, but he's just struggling from that little mistake at the start of the race.
Yeah, so Edwards there. I don't know, was that cold tyres, do you think, Jay, at the same time in the Ferrari?
Potentially. Of course, these cars used to a rolling start, so standing start very, very uncommon for the GT machinery. So definitely could have caught him out there, probably expecting a rolling start. Getting into a standing start would have really hurt him and compromised his run. But I must say, Matt Campbell's doing a good job. He's fighting off Lewis Paulo Gallon, who throughout our coverage here of the GT Sprint Series, the Epiroc Sprint Series Australia, he's been one of the best GT drivers we have in this side of the planet. Matt Campbell, we know he's absolutely brilliant skill, but sim racing's a little bit different to real life, but he's translating it across very, very well tonight.
And Lachlan, Dominic Ferraris in the 4th position, is quite an expert in the Ferrari. Here he is on screen now through the final corner, turn number 12. And I guess that will just make him a little bit more comfortable, even though this is more or less a non-official event.
With a surname like Ferraris, you would have to expect that he would be put in a Ferrari, wouldn't you? But at the moment, he's just got the bird's eye view of the battle between Matt Campbell and Luis Paulo Gallon, so he might be in a good position to capitalise if those two start battling too ferociously with one another. But coming back to the points that you made about the cold tyre situation, one of the big talking points in the iRacing community over the last few weeks has been the new tyre model and how it's more realistic in terms of how the cars respond when the tyres are at different levels of temperatures. So that will definitely be something that drivers will have to be mindful of.
Yeah, most certainly. And here they are heading through turn 7. This is a nice little scrap right now. Campbell, Paolo Gaon, and Ferraris behind. who's going to end out on top at the end of this straight. I can already see that number 31 of Dominic Ferraris sending it here, making a name for the series. Here is Campbell and Paolo Gaon for the second position, still alongside each other into the turn 10 braking zone. Oh, and what's happened there to Matt Campbell? He's off the racetrack. Oh, that was heartbreaking for him.
Paul O'Gallen had the run up the inside, didn't he? And Matt Campbell just got elbowed wide. We'll take another look at it, but Paul O'Gallen using the slipstream and then drawing up alongside on the outside, which, oh, there we go. That was the contact. So it was through the secondary part of turn number 10, turn 10B, as it's officially described. Matt Campbell gets shuffled back to position 4.
Yeah, that was your modem simulation replay up on screen. And again, Lockie, I think he he misjudged that, didn't he? He just turned in a bit too early going for the switchback.
And now the problem for him is that he's under fire from another angry pack of Ferraris, including Cody Bircher, Craig Edwards, Daniel Benefield, and Ross Rizzo.
It's a nice little scrap. Now, Benefield's a driver that as we said, just send it's all in a bit of fun. But you also, for Benefield, you must expect that he's going to finish this race cleanly. You know, he's a driver that needs a good result for a bit of confidence. He has to fight off Ross Rizzo here. And Jay, to talk about this Ferrari GTE, it is also a very popular car and one of the most driven iRacing series in terms of the official series when you look at the statistics. Yeah,
definitely. The Ferrari is one of the most popular cars out there, one of the easier to drive of the GT cars because it just has a really good balance. It's not the best at one thing, it's the best overall, if that makes sense. I just noticed that Paulo Gallon and Ferrari side by side into turn 1, so these guys are going at it hard, and then that secondary pack is going at it too. It's hard to know which to watch here, but yeah, you're 100% right. This is a really, really full-on series in the official side of things as well. So a really good choice and really good combination that we've got out on track tonight.
Yeah, and you're right about Ferraris. He's all over the rear end of Paulo Gallon. Here they head through the difficult double apex of turn 6 and 7. And you really, I mean, Lachlan, I remember I was in a server on iRacing about 6 months ago, and I had Atsay Kirchhoff, one of the best sim racers of all time, on a server. I had SVG and Max Verstappen all lapping at this circuit on the Formula 3, and they loved this circuit so much, we were online from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. That's a true story.
Well, it gives you a bit of everything, doesn't it? We talked about the variety of different types of corners and the elevation changes and the overtaking opportunities. Speaking of overtaking opportunities, Daniel Benefield is looking pretty fired up at the moment. He's got pretty good pace at the moment. He's one of only 3 drivers in the field so far that's done a lap time quicker than a 1 minute 18. The fastest lap of the race overall, unsurprisingly, has been recorded by Josh Rogers at a 1 minute 17.3, which is 0.6 of a second quicker than what anybody else has been able to achieve.
Yeah, it's good to know that someone can get at least close to Josh Rogers, because the man is not only a little richer on the weekend here, Lachlan, but with esports, it's very rare for at least the sim racing universe, as we see a position change on screen there. That's Rogers lapping another Ferrari.
What did you say that he won? 50 grand?
Yeah, in the Porsche Esports Super Cup World Championship.
Well, clearly I'm in the wrong line of business then, aren't I? I'd be lucky to declare that as a profit after 12 months.
Can we, Jay, do we have any of our sponsors as we watch Benefield here and Rizzo in a slice and dice? Do we have any sponsors that can fund Lockie a wheel?
Look, we might be able to see what we can do. I've already hit him up with a 3-month free iRacing subscription, so
wow.
We're going to get him on over the summer break. We might see him out on track in a few weeks' time, and maybe we'll have an on-board commentary of him out on track for Just Send It.
I have to
I've just put the pressure on now, haven't I?
I was fortunate enough the other week when I was staying with Dylan O'Keefe, who unfortunately isn't competing tonight because he's just come back from Super 2 Series test day at Winton, but I had a go on Dylan O'Keefe's sim, and it was a lot of fun. My lap times were certainly not what you would describe as competitive, but at least I got a feel for it.
Uh-oh.
Well, it's all about fun here on Just Send It. Now, here's an issue there on screen for... Matt Campbell? Wow, here's the modem simulation replay. Talk us through it, Lachlan. This is Campbell going through turn 10. Oh, and don't tell me this is going to be a collision.
So coming down the hill, as he got it wrong all on his own, we'll have to wait until we get to the end of this particular shot. So coming down into turn 1, past pit lane, he's lost it all on his own, bang, into the wall. So just coming through turn number 1, I think he might have just clipped the curb on the inside, and that's unsettled the car, it's unsettled the rear end, and caused him to go firing off into the fence. And you can see that in these aero-sensitive GT cars, it doesn't take much of a loss of grip for the car to get away from you very rapidly, and that Campbell not able to correct it there, and he's in the fence hard.
And this is Cooper Murray now. How close is he right now to Justin Ruggiero up ahead? Through the final corner. That's a huge slide for Cooper Murray. Somehow saves it there as he begins another lap. Oh, we have a Ferrari into the gravel. We have one car into the gravel. That's John Emerson. So now out of nowhere, as the modem simulation replay comes up on screen, Jay, this was after a battle.
Yeah, that was Thomas Hinz and Andrew Collins side by side into turn 1, and Emerson's just trying to go around the outside. And the left-hand wheel's in the grass when you go to turn in. They don't usually work too well. He's been able to regather it and keep going, but he's a little bit back down the field. But Andrew Collins again, Lockie, you said before that he consistently getting within the top 10 or so. He's currently in 9th, going again.
Now, Andrew Collins is not a name that's probably familiar to many real-world racing fans, but he does have a lot of input into real-world racing because he's a race engineer for the Ashley Seawood Motorsport team, which runs Dylan O'Keefe in TCR Australia and also runs cars in the Porsche Carrera Cup and Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Series. So even though Andrew might not be a real-life racing driver, he's still very heavily involved in the real-world racing scene.
I'd love to know, Lachlan, what he thinks about setting up cars in sim racing, because I know the top-level sim racers, and when I raced in the World Championship in sim racing on a different simulator, which I won't mention, not iRating, but we abuse some of the flaws in a sim just to go quick. So we have setup settings like excessive cambers as we see one car make their mandatory pit stop. Do you think that he's... have you had a chat to him about that? Is that something you think you should bring up in the future?
Well, I have actually had a chat to him, and one of the comments that he's made is because all of the Just Send It races run with a fixed setup, he said that his engineering instincts, he has to kind of put them to one side because he can't actually make any changes to the car. So he said that as a driver, he sort of had to work on honing his driving technique rather than necessarily focusing on the setup side of things so much.
Well, it's good to see driving standards are top-notch today here on Just Send It. This is Ruggiero. Well, that looked like a Lewis Hamilton swerve from Malaysia 2010 by Brad Ryan. Just trying to break the toe of Ruggiero behind. And into the braking zone is Justin, having a peek, but he will not make a move this time round. And he'll form up behind yet another time. Now, is he going to enter the pit lane? Now, I think, Jay, if you want to make that mandatory pit stop, you got to do it now before the competition caution.
Yeah, exactly right. You want to get in there before that absolutely ruins your race. So if you don't do it now, you could find yourself in all sorts of troubles later on and end up in big trouble. So yeah, want to get in there as quick as you can, get your pit stop done, and make sure that you don't end up getting yourself caught out. And those guys that have pitted already might find themselves in a good spot.
And there's a car up ahead. That's a stricken Ferrari. Their day's done. Who's that? Wow. That's a very sick Ferrari, Jay, there off to the side of the racetrack.
Trying to find who that was.
And it's very difficult. Was it a lap car?
Oh, it's Glenn Wood.
Oh, no, Glenn Wood. Glenn Wood is having issues. The Australian GT driver, Lachlan, his day looks done as that Ferrari is toasted. Here's the replay.
He's been one of the few drivers who's competed in all 7 weeks of Just Send It so far, but let's see what happened to the Australian GT KTM driver. Oh, again, another driver who's been caught out by one of the ripple strips. It's unsettled the car, he's lost the back end, and he's flicked it right into the concrete wall.
Jay, this ripple strip here. Oh, look at Ferraris here all over the rear end of Paolo Gallon. That curb there here in the first sector is ever so deadly, and the drivers approach it, Jay, with a blind entry. They just can't see their turning point.
It's one of the the awesome things about this circuit is the undulation. It just it's such an amazing characteristic that the concrete walls are close, and the blind corners, the blind apexes, it just makes it such an awesome track. And I love this track. This has been one of my favourite tracks throughout the history of my career on iRacing, and I still can never get that run on the back straight gets me every time. I'm not sure about you, but that run on the back straight I think is the most difficult corner on the entire circuit because there's so many different ways you can approach it, and they always feel wrong.
What, the first right-hander or the second?
No, the second one.
Oh, really? The second one?
Yeah, I always get it wrong.
And Tyler Howard's had a huge off there in that difficult first sector. Modem simulation again. Modem simulation replay again up on screen. Oh, what's happened there? I don't condone texting and driving, Lachlan, but it looked like it.
Let's watch. It looks like he's just gone straight ahead and missed the corner completely. Let's watch.
Oh, he's lost the rear end.
Lost it.
Once again, once you lose the rear end in these cars, not a lot of time to react, get it corrected and keep it on the black stuff. I've just been studying the timing screen as well, boys, and I'm surprised at how few drivers have pitted so far. The highest placed driver who has made a pit stop is Andrew Collins, who's currently in 22nd position, so still a lot of pit lane activity to unfold. And like you say, those drivers who haven't pitted yet are leaving themselves very much exposed if the competition caution comes out.
Well, Jay, these cars are fuel limited to 40% at the moment. So do you think they're not going to make the end on fuel? We're almost halfway through the event, though.
Definitely they won't make it on fuel. It'll be just over half an hour of fuel in the car. So they've pretty much got to pit now to the next 6 or 7 minutes, really, and they're going to be out of fuel. Probably 15 minutes to go. There'll be no fuel left in the tank. Just start hearing there's some issues with admins as well, that they couldn't get into the server to actually potentially throw a caution. So hopefully, fingers crossed, they can get in there to actually be able to throw a competition caution. So that could throw another curveball up that we may not get a competition caution here.
Oh,
So Rougier up the inside.
Yeah, Rougier with a nice move there. I don't think they'll throw a curveball. I think that's throwing a splitter. Something more complicated. It's really going to be a predicament as Rougier there with a nice... Yeah.
Just to clarify, and excuse my ignorance, but somebody actually has to manually activate the competition caution. Is that how it works?
Yeah. So it's like race control, Lachlan. So somebody who, they're basically virtual race control people sitting, analyzing incidents, throwing cautions, removing penalties, managing all that kind of stuff.
On board with Justin Rougier, who's looking pretty racy at the moment. He's up behind Michael Healy. This is the contest for positions 6 and 7. Rougier using all of the road and a little bit of the grass as well as they head down through the final sector.
And he's defending heavily aggressively from Brad Ryan, who's trying to reclaim that 9th position from Justin Rougier. Now, Rougier started in 16th. Ryan started 13th. So Rougier making his way up the order quite sporadically right now. 20 minutes into the event. He's under attack right now by the Ferrari of Brad Ryan. Here, Ryan up the inside. Oh, he's late on the brakes, is Rougier, and sends it through the corner quite cleanly. That's a brilliant defensive technique there, just to throw it into the apex, and he decides to pit as well. Double whammy for Brad Ryan.
Benefield has come in as well, so Benefield from 5th position is now in. Also noticed too that Craig Edwards has come in as well, so he has lost out a little bit. Thomas Hin's now the lead car. Craig Edwards, of course, started 2nd on the grid. He's now back in 20th. Long way back.
Yeah, after all those mistakes for Craig Edwards, you have to say Rogers needs to pit now, doesn't he, I think? I mean, if you don't do it now, when is it going to happen, Lachlan?
Exactly right. The longer these drivers stay out, the bigger the risk that they take. And we've seen that drivers have had their races ruined by the safety car coming out. The rules, of course, are that when the safety car comes out, the pit lane entry closes for a lap. So you can't take your pit stop until the field has bunched up behind the safety car, which means that you lose a lot of track position, as we see. Cooper Murray in the Racing Point Formula 1 livery lookalike Ferrari is battling side by side with Brad Ryan as they head down the back straight into turns 10A and B. Murray taking the defensive line, slowing it up at the apex, covering off the overtaking opportunity just to make sure that Brad Ryan can't get up the inside, and it looks like both of them are headed pit side. Indeed they are.
Yep, drivers who have entered the pits include Bircher, Healy, Murray, Brad Ryan behind, of course. And the only drivers yet to enter the box are Josh Rogers, Luis Paulo Gallon, Dominic Ferraris, Matt Morris, Cameron Stubber, John Emerson, and only a couple more down the order that include Paul Nichols and I believe Tom Freer, who may have just entered the pit lane this lap. So scratch that. But very late pit stops for these drivers, and anytime soon that competition caution is going to wave, and it could catch Rogers and company by surprise.
Paul Nichols getting forced wide there as well. This is a battle just on the fringe of the top 20 at the moment. There's a car with its bonnet missing as well. So obviously a bit of context that's happened somewhere around the racetrack. But Josh Rogers led in this race 8.7 seconds over Luis Paulo Gallon. And I mentioned at the top of the broadcast that we're yet to see a double race winner for the Just Send It series. Every race so far has had a different winner. Could Josh Rogers become our first double winner in the Just Send It series?
And it's good to see Josh Rogers as well, Lachlan, have a bit of fun with his sim racing, because he's had a lot of pressure to win the World Championship over the weekend. His first major title in sim racing. No, sorry, second major title, excuse me. He's had a double trouble, hasn't he, in 2019, as we see Emerson Harvey there in a nice little scrap. One driver off is Tom Freer. And Rogers with the Supercar E Series coming up for round 2, he's going to have a lot of pressure on that. So it's just nice to take a bit of a break from sim racing. Ironically, sim racing.
Well, and this is what the Just Send It series has been about. The idea is to make it not too serious, to have fun with it, and to give people with no actual motorsport experience the opportunity to go wheel to wheel with some very high-level professional racing drivers. And certainly so far you would have to say that it's achieved that. It's already got a really good following on social media. Trent Harrison and the crew have put a lot of effort into building the following, and I think it's filling a really nice niche within the sim racing world.
Oh wow, one driver's hit the concrete wall in the pit lane. Let's have a look at the replay of this.
I actually think he's missed his pit box. It's Paul Nichols. He's missed his pit box and had to try and reverse. And because of where his pit box is, I think he's gone an extra lap. So it's actually scored him a lap ahead. Something weird's going on here.
Oh, wow. Okay, so he was in P24. Oh, that's bizarre. That's very bizarre. Oh, I've heard of some pit lane. Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure about the sim racing world, but in real life, if you reverse in pit lane, you get disqualified.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if you do it for a short amount of time, you can get away with it. But any more than what he just did, he probably could have been disqualified. I just find it hilarious that his pit box is probably the first one out there, Jay. But how did it score him a lap ahead?
Oh, his pit box must be right on the timing line. That's a weird one. We might have to send that one off to iRating.
Yeah, obviously, if you abuse that now, ladies and gentlemen, we all know, and you are at risk of getting banned. Yeah, exactly. You know, abusing the service, so don't do that. Although it's quite... I've never seen anything like it. Here's your leader, Josh Rogers, entering the pit lane. 2019 VRS GT champion and 2019 Porsche Esports Super Cup champion, joined by Luis Paulo Gallon. He looks untouched, Lachlan. Rogers, you'll have a clean pit stop and break out in the way in the lead. Here's Ferraris on screen, having a decent event for himself.
So what this means is that all of the key contenders will have done their pit stops. The only driver that's yet to pit at this stage is Cameron Stubber, who's currently in third position. So it means that when the competition caution comes out, if the competition caution comes out, because we've heard about some of those problems that we've had with the admins getting into the server, we're not going to get the variation and the shuffling of the field that we've seen in previous weeks. How about the admins getting locked out of the server? That would be like putting a padlock on the race control door at a real life racing event so that the clerk of the course can't get in there to call safety cars.
I would have loved to have done that at the Canadian Grand Prix this year for Formula One.
I can confirm that issue has been sorted, and Dominic Ferraris, that early pit stop has worked for him because he's come out ahead of Luis Paulo Gallon.
Yep, good spot there, Jay. He's ahead by half a second. And Will he be able to sustain that advantage? He was about 3 seconds quicker in the pit stall, Jay. I find it interesting. Oh, and just as we say that, the competition caution fly.
What a time for it too. So that means we're going to have about 9 minutes of racing to go. That's going to be an awesome run to the flag. It's going to bunch this field back up. Will Ferraris be able to hold on? Will Rogers be able to sustain a little bit of pressure with some cars actually behind him again for a change?
Just having a look at the race position so far and having a think about the drivers that might be in contention for the Best Postman award. So Michael Smith Crossing, who is currently in 23rd position, he's made up 17 spots. And Paul Nichols in 31st position, mainly probably by staying out of trouble more than anything, has come out up 19 spots. So a few good gains for those drivers. Also Cooper Murray has worked his way up inside the top 10. He's made up 13 positions. So a good charge up the order by the Porsche Carrera Cup driver.
Yep, so those are your notable drivers who have made their way up through the field here this evening on Just Send It, broadcasting live on the SimSpeed Esports Network. Welcome along as well, whether you're joining us for today or every single round this season. We hope you've enjoyed all the action of what has been a thrilling series so far. And must also say thanks to our series sponsors, the Hype Project, Wolf Chester, Vantage Freight, GB Galvanizing, SimWorks, and of course JAC Technologies. They are the sponsors that get it done for us. And visit, of course, Just Send It Sim Racing on Facebook for more information on the series. Lucky to you.
So it's 2 laps, isn't it, that we spend behind the safety car under this competition caution. So a good opportunity for the field to bunch up. And I know that everybody has to make at least one pit stop because of the fuel range situation, but I would imagine that if you've got damage, there would be nothing to stop you making a second pit stop under this safety car if you so desired.
Yeah, exactly. I think, well, Jay, you won't receive a penalty, right, in the road course racing?
No, you can definitely come in and get some damage fixed, and
Yeah.
we'll put you back in the line. But you can come in and get some damage fixed. The pit lane opens now, so we'll drop you down a few spots. But yeah, that's definitely an option. Some of those guys that are probably a lap down as well might do it just to get out of the traffic as well. You don't want to be mixed up in a big fight with the leaders. It's nothing more nerve-wracking when you say second place. Rogers is coming back into the pits.
Oh, what? Yes, Josh Rogers is
he
pitting.
giving himself a bit of a challenge here to come back through the field, or has he underfueled the car?
Well, it's one of the two, and hopefully he comes in for a post-race interview or chat. I don't know if we've ever done that all season though, so I'm not sure if we'll have a chance to speak to Rogers. Now let's see if he enters his box. He enters his box as well. Fresh rubber possibly, Lachlan, for Rogers. Now we don't know if this is intentional or not, but this is going to be quite spicy now coming through the field.
Well, I was going to make the comment that if you're further back in the pack, it might be worth coming in, putting some fresh tyres on, because you're not going to lose any track position if you're already down the order anyway. But to come in from the race lead, interesting move, but good to say that Josh Rogers is up for maybe a bit of a challenge and a charge through, but it kind of makes a mockery of what I was saying before about possibly getting our first double race winner.
And you know what, Jay? I'm, I put my helmet on and my driver's perspective for this. If I'm in Josh Rogers' position, I'd say, hey, look, guys, I led for half an hour of this event and I've proved my worth. I was probably going to win. I want to have a bit of fun now and ease the pressure off myself. Somebody else can take the win. I want to pass as many cars. And it's just a way as a driver where you can have a bit of fun, but also prove to everybody that your competitive nature comes out in you. You still want to win these events, despite no matter how unofficial they are.
Seen there's cars actually have looped it around under the safety car, but you're 100% right there. I've never been good enough to be able to do anything like that, but yeah, for someone like Rogers in a fun event like this, a really good chance just to also work in his racecraft as well, because he's going to be trying to get past other drivers that are nowhere near as fast as him. A great chance for him to try and work his way through those drivers. So that might be more what he's doing there, just a little bit of racecraft practice to get through some slower drivers. I think that might be more what he's doing rather than doing anything bizarre in regards to try to do a last to first challenge or something like that, because just not enough time left for that. But I think it might be more just practice overtaking and things like that. Something he doesn't get to do a hell of a lot from the front of the field.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Ironically, leading and winning a lot of his races earned through sheer pace and pure pole positions. Here is Ferraris, though. He floors it. We go green for the final 10 minutes here for week 7 of Just Send It from Road Atlanta. And already Ferraris screams away here in the lead ahead of Luis Paulo Gallon. How about Benefield behind? And it looks like a clean getaway from our field, Lockie.
We talked before about the possibility of a double winner. Well, even with Josh Rogers buried down the field, it is still a possibility because Cody Bircher has worked his way up into 4th position, and he is a former winner of a Just Send It race this season. So there he is on screen at the moment in the blue number 36 car, currently running in position 4.
And he's got a very hungry Ross Rizzo behind. They're going to be alongside each other into the braking zone of 6. That was never going to work 3 wide into there. And that is Ross Rizzo's day in that Trick Sim Sports car. Possibly done. He hasn't got the car going for the moment, but 3 wide never works through there, Jay. And here's the modem simulation replay.
Yeah, I think the issue that Rizzo had there was that he was expecting that lap car possibly to get out of the way a little bit earlier. He saw the lap car there and didn't really know what to do. The lap car then stayed a little bit wider, left a tiny little bit of room, and then it closed the door again. So, yeah, Rizzo, a little bit unfortunate there with how that turned into a 3-wide situation. He was probably expecting the lap car to be a little bit more friendly about that one. He's all the way back now in 29th position. Interesting, too, that Rogers has already gained a couple of spots since that restart. And Gallon is not able to stick with Ferraris. He's starting to break away.
Well, conspiracy theories start to be named right now. The Ferraris theory. Could potentially win in the Ferrari here as we watch a few drivers battling away into the first sector. But like you said, Lachlan, I haven't seen such a controversial name here in this series so far. Here is Job Stewart as we ride on board with him. But nevertheless, I think, I mean, through this corner coming up here, Lachlan, I've never seen, well, actually, sorry, I've always seen 3 wide through here, and it's never worked, is what I should say.
No, you'd have to be pretty brave to try and attempt to go 3 wide through there. And that incident we saw on the previous lap, the other thing that contributed to that was Cody Bircher getting a slow exit from the final corner, which checked up and spread eagled the field. But Dominic Ferraris, he was strong through the first sector. Paul O'Gowan has been able to rail him back in the second sector, so it looks like these drivers have got strengths and weaknesses in different parts of the racetrack. Dominic Ferraris setting himself up to try and get a nice toe. Paul O'Gowan, I should say, setting himself up to try and get a nice toe from Dominic Ferraris as they head down the main straight.
Let's have a watch of this. It's right on board. Let's have a listen to Paulo Gallon here in P2. Wow, is the car oscillating there through the difficult turn 5 at Road Atlanta. Almost lost it, but Lachlan, that's never good, really.
No, big mistake there from Paul O'Gowan, and that has let Ferraris off the hook because he was under serious pressure, but that sideways moment, just hustling the car a bit too aggressively, just using a bit too much of the curbs, has cost Paul O'Gowan bulk time, and he's going to have to do all of that hard work all over again.
Here's the replay up on screen. Somehow keeps that Ferrari out of the barriers. This ever easy Ferrari to drive, hard to go quick in. But he's already reeled the gap in now back to 1.1 seconds. So it was extruded further than that. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll keep another eye on our mid-pack field right now. This is Cooper Murray, right behind Michael Healy for the 7th position. Now, Murray started this race, Lachlan, in the 23rd position. He may potentially be... No, I've already had a look through the order, but he is one of the highest drivers ranked at the moment in terms of positions gained.
He is, although I still think you're going to have to do pretty well to beat Michael Smith Crossing, who's made up an enormous 22 positions. Just checking on the progress of Josh Rogers as well. So after that pit stop under safety car, he fell back to 29th position. He's worked his way up to 20th, so he has gained 9 spots since the restart.
Yeah, this is almost, I mean, it would have to be...
Whoa!
Whoa, that was huge! Goodness me, I know it's sim racing, but even that scared me. John Emerson there, stricken. A stricken Ferrari in the first sector. Let's have a watch. Oh, man. That scared me to tomorrow, Jay.
That was scary, scary, scary. And Rogers was lucky to get through that because he was trying to get past Michael Hammond, who he's got past. Went to go around him, and there was Emerson parked on the edge of the track as Cooper Murray's... Have a look at the pace he's got. He's gone straight past Healy, and now he's back on the tail of Andrew Collins, who we were speaking before the broadcast started, Lockie, that Collins has been fantastic throughout this series and consistent. He's in 6th, and he could hold on for another top 6.
Indeed, or even a top 7 or 8 finish would be pretty impressive when you consider his results from previous weeks. But Cooper Murray's got some really good speed in the closing stages of this race. As I mentioned before, races in the real world in the Porsche Carrera Cup as well, with McElroy Racing. Got a round win in the Townsville event back in July, where he clean swept all 3 races.
And Luis Paulo Gallon, we're hearing word, has spun. There he is on screen. Luis Paulo Gallon has spun. He has retired from the race. And our closest challenger to Dominic Ferraris, well, he can say so long to week 7 from Road Atlanta. That's the same corner he made the error at a few laps ago, Lachlan. This time, though, well, there's a unfortunate little memorial for him there, as his, well, a bizarre incident for him, and one that he'll want to forget.
He was fast, but he was right on the ragged edge, wasn't he? So, in the end, just driving the car too hard, too aggressively, and it's beaten him hard in the end. But good battle on here for what is now going to be the final podium position. So Cody Birch has worked his way up to 3rd. He's got Thomas Hinz right behind him. Both of these drivers have won races in Just Send It so far this season. So Cody Birch got a win in the Aston Martin at Road America. Thomas Hinz was victorious in the Audi TCR car at Bathurst last week.
Yeah, exactly. That TCR ever so fun on iRacing. Brand new to the service this season. And it's almost being, I don't want to say overdriven, Jay, but what's the right term? It's been driven as you'd expected, but it's quite popular. I think it's the right term to use. It's
been very, very well appreciated addition to the service. That's the best way to talk about it. And of course, Thursday night here on SimSpeed TV, we do have our coverage of the TCR cars in the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge, and hopefully you'll be back again this week on Thursday night.
Yeah.
Jonathan, it was good fun on Thursday night just gone. It was a fantastic race in Donington Park on the national circuit. That's going to be awesome in those cars this week.
Yeah, most certainly. I can confirm to you live, Jay, that I'll be back. I forgot to do that, mate. Sorry.
That's all right.
But Cody Bircher and Thomas Hinz right now for the final podium.
We'll just have a team meeting mid-breaks. How's that?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, next week, are you giving me that $10 million contract? No, we'll talk about it later.
I've got Monopoly money. It's all right.
Oh. So Thomas Hinz now. Yeah. Hinz now for the final podium position. Now, this is bragging rights, Lachlan. There's no prize money for Hinz, no $10 million contract, but he's at least, both he and Birch are winners in this series, right? Looking to battle away for the P3 position.
Indeed they are, and Cody Bircher, another driver with real-world experience racing in the Australian Formula Ford Championship as well. And Thomas Hinz was really, really quick, but then just coming down into turn 10A and 10B, he had a half walk down the inside of Bircher, but that meant that his line through that corner was a bit tighter than what it needed to be, and it actually cost him a bit of time on the exit, so he'll have to work really hard for the rest of this lap to try and catch up to the back of Bircher once again.
This is the penultimate lap of the event for Ferraris. He's heading through the ever complex of turn 10 here at Road Atlanta. He'll cross the start-finish line, and the white flag will wave here from what, Jay, has been a phenomenal event from Ferraris. He started on that 3rd row, and he's really picked up the pieces. Now, you can say Rogers basically gifted him the victory, but at the same time, we don't know if Rogers actually underfueled the car or pitted deliberately.
Well, there's always a chance that he accidentally took tyres rather than taking fuel when he came in to make his stop. So there is that possibility that he was forced to come back in. But nonetheless, Ferraris did a great job for fighting and working his way up to the back of Luis Polo Gallon, and then jumping him in the pit stops. Now, of course, we've said that his pit stop was a little bit shorter than everyone else. Just looking at some of the other pit stop times, it looks like he might be all right for fuel. So, be a little bit heartbreaking if he does run out on this last lap. But Daniel Benefield is actually closing in a little bit on on this lap as well. He's gained about half a second. But Benefield, no stranger to second position. Of course, VSR Showdown 1 and 2, second place for both.
Yeah, he's been a bridesmaid now, potentially for a third time, unfortunately, for Benefield. We'll see if Ferraris actually crosses the line in a few moments' time. He has only a couple more corners to go. Dominic Ferraris, I watched him in this Ferrari just a month ago at this circuit dominate in another Australian GT series. Here he comes once again. The headlights flicker. He wins! Week 7 action of Just Send It, and a brilliant victory for him here this afternoon, Lachlan. We have Andrew Collins in a nice little scrap here with Cooper Murray right behind across the line. Collins will end up with a top 5 position. How about that drag race to the finish?
And Job Stewart got it on the outside in the grass by 0.02 of a second.
Surely that's not legal, Lachlan.
Job Stewart and Brad Newman side by side across the finish line. And how about Josh Rogers as well? So after that pit stop, came back up to finish in 11th position. That's a great recovery.
Speaking of Josh Rogers, if you did see the iRacing top 10 last month, the number 1 was Josh Rogers doing the exact same thing in the iRacing V8 series. And I got a feeling he's done it again as well to get that spot from Bailey Sweetie on the last lap, and he did, on the grass, to pass around the outside at the final corner to take a spot.
Is that our best send of the evening award?
Yes.
Has to be.
I'm burning it. Has to be. I haven't seen many others I can remember, as everybody now on this cool down lap enjoying the finish, but wow, what a... I mean, I didn't expect them to do it twice. Isn't it full throttle through there, Jay?
That's incredible. Yeah, well, it is full throttle, but if you are stuck on the inside, you'd have to lift a little bit, so probably forced to lift a tiny little bit. Rogers on the outside just absolutely planning it. I think failed send award we might have to give, unfortunately, to Ross Rizzo. Not really his fault, but definitely a failed send from him to try and thread that needle.
And
Lachlan,
best postman award's going to go to Paul Nichols, who has made up 23 positions. They finished up in P27.
Yep, so that's your biggest mover and shaker through the field, positively, of course. But it is time right now to look at your final race results for Week 7 from Road Atlanta.
So Dominic Ferraris, the winner, ahead of Daniel Benefield. Cody Bircher in 3rd position, ahead of Thomas Hinz. Andrew Collins, another top 5 finish. He has been by far and away the most consistent performer in this series. Cooper Murray, a 17-spot gain to finish up in P6, ahead of Justin Ruggier. And then Michael Healy rounding out your top 8.
You can see fastest lap for the day was by Josh Rogers, of course, a 1 minute 17.3 early on in the event. So interesting to note that he didn't get that done with the track rubbered in towards the end of the day, as the track temperatures remained stagnant throughout the entire event today. He ended up finishing in 11th. Ross Rizzo, after that failed send award, of course, not through any fault of his own, ended up in the 16th position. Another few names as we cycle through now. From 17th to 24th, I look down to Craig Edwards, who started on the front row. Recovery drive to that 17th position, but at the end of the day, still 28 seconds off the lead. How about Glenn Postlethwaite in 22nd? So a good event for Glenn. He's had better ones before, though, let me tell you that. Emerson Harvey, Australian Formula 4 driver, ended up as the final driver 1 lap down. A couple drivers ended up 2 laps down. They included Rob Crisdale. And let's cycle through the field. We had about 50 drivers racing this afternoon. Where's Luis Paulo Gallon? So I think still classified was Luis Paulo Gallon, but only ended up in 34th. He should have been in the top 2, or at least a winner of this race, had he kept the pressure on Dominic Ferraris potentially. Glenwood was right behind him. And here we go through our final few names on the list. Steve Owen, an early DNF. He joined the likes of Andre Borrell out of this race. Many, many laps ago as this race commenced. How about Blake Purdy and Simon Larter, of course, also out on the opening lap of the day. So Anything you've learned from this round, Lachlan, in comparison to other weeks of Just Send It? I thought it was a lot cleaner in terms of standards, and I hope we take that to whatever track and car combination we have for week 8.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there, Jonathan. The driving standards, particularly in the early laps when you've got everybody tightly bunched together and the propensity for damages at its highest, were much improved this week. We didn't quite get the strategy variation that we've had in previous weeks. I think people are starting to learn that with the competition caution, you really do need to try and get your pit stop out of the way early, because if you don't, you can get trapped by the safety car. But still some really good hard racing, particularly at the front of the field.
So it's time to wrap up here from the commentary booth at the virtual Road Atlanta. The magnificent talent that you saw racing out here today, they will be back racing again in a week's time at a track combination and a track and car combination, I should say, that will be revealed 24 hours before the day of the event. So stay tuned, of course, on all of Just Send It's social media channels. Thanks, of course, to our sponsors as usual for the series. They include the Hype Project, Wolfchester, Vantage Freight, GB Galvanizing, SimWorks, and of course, JAC Technologies. The next event will be on the 8th of October. That's in a week's time, of course, for 40 minutes of racing, and it will host Week 8 for iRacing's Season 4 2019 for Just Send It. It will be broadcasted live on the SimSpeed Esports Network. Now, of course, to all you viewers, thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed today's coverage. From myself, Jonathan Simon, Lachlan Mansell alongside me, Jay Kennedy on commentary and production behind the scenes. This has been a SimSpeed TV presentation with our winner today, Dominic Ferraris, and we say so long from Road Atlanta.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's going the outside. Both of them. Maloney. Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to him. Oh my God. Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get involved.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go.
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!